Rambam says he says it twice. Once in Hilchos Yisei Torah, and once again he mentions it in Hilchos Shavuos. The Rambam mentions that the sun is 167 times the size of the earth. Someone wrote to the Rebbe and says, how can that be? That according to science, the sun is much bigger than that. There are a lot of letters that the Rebbe responded to people who asked the Rebbe questions on science, and because the Rebbe was very versed in the sciences, the Rebbe was able to respond to these questions. And in fact, the Rebbe was very hardline. In other words, not giving in an inch, and everything that Torah says is 100% correct, 100% accurate. And the Rebbe would answer all these questions. You know, a lot of times you have these rabbis that are scientifically enlightened, and then they begin to make psharas, and maybe it's not kipshutei or this or that. By the Rebbe, there was no games. There was no games. If Torah says that the sun goes around the earth, the sun goes around the earth, and the Rebbe was bringing the theories from Einstein to prove, in fact, that scientifically there's no way to say otherwise. You can't say otherwise, and many other things. Whether it comes to evolution, the age of the universe, the Rebbe was on the front lines. But the Rebbe wasn't just saying, "Hey, this is what Torah says." The Rebbe was able to actually bring chapter and verse from the sciences, because in Perek Zayin in Tanya, it talks over there about that learning Chachmas Chetzeni is learning secular studies. So that Alter Rebbe says there are two heterim to learn. There are two in general. Learning secular studies is aser because it's bittul Torah. So what's the heter to learn Chachmas Chetzeni? So he says two things. Either if your person's using it kekardem lachtach, which is like an axe to cut. In other words, pasha in order to make a parnasa for avodas Hashem, then it's mutter al pi halacha. By the way, we're not talking about philosophy or the different studies that are aser. There's certain studies that a Yid is not to learn, but we're talking about whether it's math or science or medicine, these things. So you're allowed to learn them in order to be able to make a parnasa. But again, you have to make sure that it's limited. You're being honest with yourself, that you're doing only what's necessary in order to make that parnasa, in order to be able to serve Hashem. And the other thing the Alter Rebbe says, the end of Periches, or he says, that you know how to use these sciences, these disciplines themselves for serving Hashem and for the Torah. This was the reason the Rambam and the Ramban, they were both doctors, but they didn't learn secular, and the Rambam was a scientist in many ways. They didn't learn secular studies to make a parnasa. The Rambam could have made a parnasa without learning medicine also. But the reason was because they used these studies for avodas Hashem. Actually, it enhanced their understanding of Torah, it enhanced their understanding of being able to understand the godless of the Eibishter. And the Rebbe was in a similar way, that the Rebbe used his knowledge. And so someone actually asked him. Now I'm not going to pretend to understand the answer that the Rebbe gave, but the Rebbe says as usual that the scientists who ask these questions don't understand science themselves. The Rebbe says that yes, science says it's bigger, but that's talking about if you're measuring the density of the sun. The density of the sun is much bigger than 167 times the size of this world. But if you're talking about the actual circumference of the sun, the Rambam is actually exactly correct that it's 167 times the size of this world.